We talked briefly also about how Seshu created the illusion that the mountains are fading into the distance, correct? Okay, we're actually going to do that today. Now, before we get to that, though, we've got to talk about space in art. Space in art. So when we say space in art, we're not talking about suns and moons and comets and stars and all of those things. That's outer space. We talked about that probably more in science class. But when we talk about space in art, what we're talking about is when an artist creates the illusion of depth. Okay? So the illusion of depth is a very fancy scientific way of saying it appears that things are going back into space. Now, I have a piece of paper right here that you were looking at on the screen, and it shows a successive set of mountain ranges that appear to fade off into the distance. And they do that by means of something called atmospheric perspective. No, that's not so atmospheric perspective means creating a sense of depth by objects fading into the distance. So I put a little photograph here. This photograph is a picture that I took when my family and I went on vacation this summer to Tennessee, and we were fortunate enough to be able to stay in a cabin, and the cabin was actually on the side of the mountain. So the first day that we were there, my son and I walked up the mountain so that we could take some really cool pictures of all of the surrounding mountains. And if you look at, that's my son right there. This is not my cabin though, our cabin's actually way down here. It was really hard to walk up that mountain too, by the way. I was like sweating by the time I got up there. When I took this picture, what you're seeing is this is looking down the mountain, and then straight out you can see all of these successive ridge lines that are going back farther and farther off into the distance, and they are appearing to fade. Now what I want to talk about with you for just a moment is, why do you think they are doing that? Why is it that when you look at things and as they get farther away, they appear to fade into the distance? Was your hand raised? Oh, yes, Vincent.
Well, where we were at, we were around the Great Smoky Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
The fog and stuff.
What is fog? That's a correct answer. That's part of the correct answer. What is fog, Mr. Norsworthy?
Like mist.
What's mist?
Water.
Water. So there's water in the air. That's one thing.
It's like clouds on the ground.
Like clouds on the ground, right? Fog is like a cloud that is a low-hanging cloud, basically. Now, when you're in the mountains like this, since you're actually higher up, you're actually closer to the clouds, so the clouds tend to, and actually one thing that was really cool while we were there is you could actually see, if you were looking out this way, you could see rainstorms crawling over the mountains hour by hour, and then once they got to you, it started raining, and that's water vapor. So that's how a cloud is formed. Water evaporates, right? And it becomes vapor in the air, which is actually turns into a gas, because you know water can turn into a solid, a liquid, and a gas. A little science there for you. I'm sure you've already learned that. And then it condenses, it turns back into water, and then that's how we get rain, right? So when you are looking at far distances, you are looking through more and more of that vapor. And it's actually in front of you. It's like a haze. Does that make sense to you guys? What else is in the air that can cause that haze? I've already called on Mr. Norsworthy. You're doing a good job. What else is in the air? Air is a mixture of a lot of things. There's a lot in the air. Yes, what else is in the air? Oxygen? Yeah. Can you see oxygen though? No. You can't see oxygen. You breathe it. So that wouldn't be one of the things that is causing this haze. It's not just water causing the haze. What else is in the air? Yes? Well, we just talked about mist. That's water vapor and water particles, water droplets. Oh, come on. You guys can get this. I got good wait time. What else could be in the air? A solid particle. Something. Mr. Ryder.
Hail.
That's water again. Not water. I'm not talking about water. Don't say water again. Are birds going to cause a haze that makes it so you can't see mountains that are 50 miles away? I don't think so. I think you'll just see the birds flying around. Can you say it a little bit louder? Salt. Probably not. That's a good guess, though. Yes, Jerry. Trees. Trees create a haze?
What's a haze?
Like, what's making the mountains fade in the distance in this photo?
A cloud.
We already said clouds. Something else. Yes, again. What's your name again, dear? Madeline. Sorry. Nope, sunlight's what makes you see everything. You see everything you see in that picture? Sunlight's bouncing off of it. That's why you can see it. That's what sunlight does. Sunlight comes from the sun in rays. It hits everything. It bounces off of it, and then it goes into your eye. And it hits your retina. Your retina decodes the sunlight, makes an image, and sends that to your brain so you can understand it. So whatever you're seeing, you're actually not seeing it. You're actually seeing what your nerve is receiving from your eye. But that's another lesson. What about dirt? You think there might be little particles of dirt floating around in the air? Yeah. Do you know also that there is something called pollution in the air? Little particles of carbon mostly? Do you think that could be causing this haze? If you said no, you're wrong. If you said yes, ding, 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 very good. Ay, folks. Did you leave your smarty pants at home today in your drawer or on the floor in your bedrooms? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I am going to give you guys a piece of paper, and you are going to write your name and class code on the back. Do not do anything else to the paper until I tell you to. You need to go get a new paper towel. It's over there by my 5W, 5th grade Williams, 5W. If you are missing your paper towel, Haley just took a paper towel off of my stack. Point to it, Haley. It's right there. No, you don't need a new one. Yours is fine. Hey, you see that paper towel that I have on my desk? I've been using it for 3 weeks. You'll see it in a second. I've been using it for 3 weeks. Same paper towel. It is pretty cool. I swear I'm sometimes encountering an alien species in the form of 5th graders. I don't understand the way their brains work. Okay. So make sure that your name and code are on the back. If you wind up with extra paper, I tried to count carefully, but if you have extra, please bring it forward and put it in this blue basket by my projector. Thank you. I haven't told you to do anything yet, so don't do anything. Don't ask me a question either. Okay, so we're going to be using that technique that I briefly discussed with you called atmospheric perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to first create a series of mountain ridges that are stretching back and fading out into the distance. That's going to help us create that illusion of depth, because our paper really can't have depth. it's only two-dimensional. So whatever we create here is like a magic trick. It's an illusion. That's what a magic trick is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our brush and we're just going to load it with the darkest ink in our tray. Usually if you have ink that's crawled to a corner or a side and it's created a little pool there in your tray, it's probably pretty dark. And then what you're going to do is, noting how I am holding the brush, and I'm waiting for the lag to catch up here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a side and I'm just going to make a little mountain range here. This one's going to be very dark because it's closest to us. So in a sumie painting, the darkest objects are going to appear closer to us. Once you make that little area there, I'm actually going to go up over here a little bit. Trying to do things a little bit differently each time. Once you make that little first little mountain range, don't do anything with your brush yet. Just keep the ink on it. Don't put it in the water. Don't wipe it on your towel or anything. And you do not have to copy mine exactly. Make it how you want it. It's your little mountain range. It's a happy little mountain range. Bob Ross, yeah. If you have long sleeves, you may want to roll them up, just saying. Unless they're a black sweatshirt, then it probably doesn't really matter. The only problem is if you get your sleeves wet with ink and you rub them on something else, then you're going to have a little bit of a problem. Okay, next step. So what I'm going to do is, with my brush still loaded with that ink I was just using, I'm going to dip into the water, dress on the edge of the cup. So now the ink that was in my brush before has become a little bit lighter because it's gotten water to dilute it. Dilute means to make weaker. And I'm going to paint my next mountain range here. By the way, you can create texture by making wavy marks with your brush while you're painting. So you'll actually see little wave marks in your brush stroke as you're painting. And that'll give the effect that there's little... Now, as your ink soaks into the paper, it will lighten up. So if it looks a little dark now, well, first of all, if it looks almost exactly as dark as the ink you were just using, you may need to add a little bit more water to your brush. But you will notice it will lighten. Who thinks they know what the next step is? Go lighter. So the way you do that is get a little bit more water, dress your brush again, and then dress means to go like this so that it's got a nice fine point. No, it's lagging. It'll catch up. But you already should know pretty much what to do. So now you should have an even farther away mountain ridge. And it appears farther away because you're using successive values of gray. Successive means they vary just a little bit as you're going along. So dark, lighter, lighter, almost not there. That's what the next one's going to be. Okay, so the next one is just rinse your brush, use the water from the cup of water, and since it has ink in it, it's still going to show up, the water, but it's going to be lighter. It's going to be your lightest color next to white. White's going to obviously be your lightest color, but okay, once you get that done, so you should have like 4 different colors: almost black, dark gray, light gray, and very, very light gray, almost white. Once you do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to let this painting sit for a couple of minutes. We're going to let it sit. And what we want is we want the ink to soak into the paper because we're going to paint a little outcropping of bamboo coming from our closest ridge right here. But if the paper is too wet, our brush strokes are going to get absorbed into that wet area and they're going to spread out. It's not going to look right. I would recommend while you're waiting for your ink to absorb, to just kind of wipe your brush, maybe even squeeze some of the water in your brush onto your paper towel. Which, yes, by the way, this paper towel I have been using for 3 weeks. I just let it dry overnight and it works perfectly fine the next day. I'm glad that was hilariously funny when I said that. Oh, well, you're painting, so you know that's a possibility when you're painting that you might get some paint on your hands, right? Yeah? Okay. If you have puddles on your paper, here's a trick to soak them up. Take your brush, fold it in a dry area of your paper towel, and squeeze the water into the paper towel like this. And then just go in with your dry brush and kind of touch it to that puddle, and it should soak it up somewhat. It may not get all of it, but it will soak it up. It'll go... About another minute, try to let your painting rest so that you don't get that absorption we talked about. The ink is slightly more viscous than the water, so when you mix them together, if you shake it a lot, sometimes it forms bubbles. Viscous means like thickness.
Trees in the background.
Yep, that's cool. Yesterday we added a river to ours. Don't feel like rivers today, but... Okay. I think we're ready. Well, stop what you're doing and watch anyways. So we're gonna make these. Hold on, just listen, okay? We're gonna make these bamboo trees here. These little bamboo shoots. So what I'm gonna do is, I've dried my brush. I'm gonna go back into that dark area of ink. We want the bamboo to be very dark so that it pops out from the light background with contrast and appears closest to us. And then we want to dress our brush really well so we have that really fine point on the end. Okay? Now, the trick to this, to making the bamboo, is to use quick, sort of like a flicking motion, like a ninja swinging a ninja sword, right? But it's not a ninja sword, it's a sumie brush, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You're watching me anyways, right? So that's a good opportunity to just wait. Whoosh, whoosh. You want to apply no pressure to the brush. You're just touching and dragging or sliding, however you want to think of it. Now the real cool trick is, if you really want this bamboo to look three-dimensional, is after you've made the main stalks here, you want to make sure you have a nice sharp point, and then you go next to each one and you just try to make a little skinny line. Try not to have your hand shake too much. The quicker you move your hand, the less it actually shakes. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, have that growth mindset and say, well, I've never done this before, so I'm learning. You shouldn't expect it to be perfect the first time. And then the next step is, well, here's a piece of bamboo right here. I know, it's a stick. Amazing. Bamboo has these straight sections, and then they have these junctions. Now the junctions are these little knobby areas, and then that's where the branches, usually they grow out kind of up and at an angle. So we're going to make the junctions, and the way I do it is I just make little curves Little curves. And then from the junctions, you make branches with the same flicking of the brush. So you go. Whoosh, whoosh. These are branches. Whoosh. Some short, some long, some crooked, some straight, some going straight up, some going sideways. At the top, you can have some kind of going down because the ones at the top are going to be older, right? You can even have some that are apparently not connected to the tree. You can just paint them there.
I'm so confused.
I'm just painting branches. They're just branches. You know, branches like on a tree. It's not confusing. It's not long division. That's confusing. Sorry, I'm only art smart. I'm not math smart. That's why I teach art. Now, the branches can have little branches that branch off because, you know, that's why they're called branches. Which sumie master is making mistakes in here? Which sumie? Oh, master. We all make mistakes, master. Don't get down on yourself. Down at the bottom here, make some little grass shoots or little bamboo shoots sticking out of the ground. You can make some curvy. Just a little grassy knoll here for the bamboo to grow out of. Makes them happy. Whatever. Okay, leaves. This is the fun part. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm just holding my brush. So, leaves, this is the fun part. So go to the end of each branch and just go psh, 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 little triangle brush strokes. Psh, 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 psh.
It's like lagging.
Come on in.
It's lagging.
I know. I told you it was going to lag, so you shouldn't be surprised. Psh, psh, psh. Just watch carefully and you'll see it. The leaves usually grow at the knobs or the branches. The little knobby, you know, the little junctions. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word that I wanted to use. At the top, you're going to have leaves that are curving downward because they're getting old. Just find a chair, Bryce. And for right now, you can just kind of hang out and draw, but I may ask you to help me clean up here and there. I figured it would be. So at the end of each branch, just give a few leaves here and there. 2 or 3 is good. Bamboo doesn't have a whole lot of leaves. At the end of a branch, there may be 5 leaves tops. By the way, if you look around your neighborhoods, you probably have bamboo growing in them. They usually grow in big bunches, especially if it's been there for a long time, and they can get really tall. The taller they get, it starts to droop. I have in my neighborhood, there's several areas where bamboo are growing. No, I didn't get that branch from my neighborhood. Okay. If you want, Bryce, trying to think of where you can sit, where you have some space. I might have to think a little longer, because... Huh? Careful, you're close to popping back there. Whoever was making the squealing noise, it sounded like you were about to pop. By the way, Leaves are really good for covering up little mistakes. Like if you made a line and there's like a little crooked area, put a leaf over it. Like right here. Yep. Yeah, for now. Okay. Give me 5 really quick. You still have 5 minutes of class left. I'm going to let you have a few more, maybe like a minute and a half to finish what you're doing. But I want to stop you now so you know what to do when you are done, because you should be finishing up. This thing is going to go on the paper towel. Don't rinse it or anything. Just set it down. This thing, your paper, is going to go on the dry rack, and I'm lasing the number 3. So look over at the dry rack and you'll see my laser lasing the number 3. You are going to load your painting on this side of the dry rack underneath 3, not on this side. On the green and black side, not on the tan side. If you're ready, you can go ahead now and start loading your painting. Make sure you wrote your name and code on the back. Make sure. Beautiful. Wow.
I messed up mine on.
How? I don't see. Oh, don't worry about that. As long as I can see it. Beautiful. Very nice. These look really good, guys. You guys did awesome. Let me see. Pretty good?